G'day mates, it's a Doctor here, and today I'm going to be doing something a little different. I'm doing a vlog with my good friend Gryken here about whether or not Yu-Gi-Oh is evolving too fast. So, say hello Gryken.
Hello, everyone.
Yep, so Gryken appeared during my Dark Neostorm opening, which is titled Epic Reactions, and we're going to be talking about if Yu-Gi-Oh as a franchise is going too fast and what that means exactly. So we have some dot points here, but this is completely unscripted. But the first dot point is that it's every 3 or 4 years that Yu-Gi-Oh's been evolving. So we're actually going to be talking about the card game first, how the franchise is going too fast, and then we'll talk about the anime side of Yu-Gi-Oh in a separate video. So, yeah, newer and older players. So, do you have any opinions on that for Yu-Gi-Oh evolving too fast?
Newer and older players, you say?
Yes, like someone that decides to take a break from Yu-Gi-Oh, dropping out, and then they want to come back in, but there's different mechanics, all these different archetypes.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. Well, can I share a personal story?
Sure, go ahead.
So I got into Yu-Gi-Oh when I was a kid, so about like 12, 13. That was in like 2008. Then I dropped out of it for about 5, 6 years. So then finishing high school, getting back into it, it was the start of the Zexal era. So Xyz monsters had been introduced maybe like a year and a half or 2 years before that. So going into it, yeah, like I was definitely what you'd call like an older player, in that I knew the mechanics of the old games still, but I didn't know anything about. I didn't even know about Synchro monsters, really, or Xyz monsters. Like I knew of Synchro monsters, but I had never played with them or owned one until then. So it was a bit of a jump going back into it. Just a lot of like, you know, having to research and look up and just ask people about, like, you know, game mechanics and like how things worked, what was good. So as an older player, like, definitely feel like the game had changed by the time I got back into it.
Yeah, that was just Zexal, and who knows with some other older players that haven't played in over a single generation, like like I think maybe all you missed out was synchros at the time, and there were Xyzs got to get used to. But you know, Xyzs, pendulums, there's link monsters now.
Yeah, and like new players, like I do feel like pity for them if they have to read like the rule books and stuff like that come with basic starter and structure decks, because there's just so many like mechanics you have to wrap your head around. And you know, usually they like trying to introduce all of them, and you know, just like only one link or 1 or 2 link monsters, and no fusion or synchro or Xyz in those packs usually.
Yeah, something kind of joking about yesterday with the spellcaster magician structure deck, with like some of the cards have just so much text on them it's impossible to memorize like one card. But you know, talking about one card, and there's so many cards that have been released, like every year, there must be over 1,000 new Yu-Gi-Oh cards. When you think about it, like the main booster packs alone, we get 4 a year, and with us in the TCG, we get 100 new cards. That includes like the Japanese imports and the TCG exclusives, and yeah, that's just 400 new cards right there.
Yeah, and yeah, there's just so many different, you know, mechanics and styles now that you have to learn about.
Oh yeah,
and you just kind of have to figure it out, you know.
But yeah, you know, not just older players, like anyone wants to get into Yu-Gi-Oh. Like we do have some great archetypes this generation, but just like all the randomness of it, like the fusion summoning, like you could argue Cyber Dragon's part fusion. Actually, no, Cyber Dragon's a mix, because there's the Link monster, there's Cyber Dragon Infinity, the Xyz, and
all the old fusions
as
well.
Well, yeah, I don't know if there's a archetype that's competitive nowadays that's primarily focused on fusion summoning, but either way,
Thought Thunder
just
Dragons?
Cyber Dragons.
No, Thunder Dragons?
Oh yeah, Thunder Dragons. Well, they're both Link and well, I guess they kind of go with Guard Dragons, but yeah, and yeah, there's Thunder Dragon Colossus. I don't think anyone uses Thunder Dragon Titan. That's supposed to be stronger, but Colossus is one that prevents your opponent from searching the deck.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just something with Yu-Gi-Oh! I think going too fast that it can be overwhelming for a lot of players. To be fair, they've kind of rebooted Yu-Gi-Oh! In a way. Like, you've heard of speed duels they've been releasing?
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links with real life. I don't know how popular that is. I think you can use speed duel cards in your decks, but you can't use your cards in speed duels.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's how it works. So they're kind of rebooting Yu-Gi-Oh! In a way, but I don't know if that's working. I don't know if it's failing necessarily.
I would probably recommend to a new player to
Yeah.
use speed cards instead of trying to get into the Yu-Gi-Oh game like straight away. There's just too much to learn in such a short time if you want to actually play competitively.
Yeah, maybe that's a discussion for another time. But like tournaments in general with competitive players and all that. But I think we'll move on to the next dot point, and that is the ban list and broken cards.
Yeah.
So I think with Yu-Gi-Oh! Going so fast that the staff behind the scenes may have to rush some cards without realizing how powerful they are. Like, for example, Firewall Dragon, that I don't think anyone would have expected it when it was first released that it would be a broken card. But the fact it didn't have a solid once per turn with the bringing back a monster to your hand, like, wouldn't think of it bad necessarily, but there were like combos with Goki's extra linking, Cannon Soldier, and yes, eventually Firewall Dragon became the first signature card ever banned.
Well, yeah, like I mean, I would agree with you to some extent that they do maybe, I wouldn't say rush, but they do maybe not consider all the implications for every card effect that they bring out and like what they're compatible with. They might, I don't know what Konami does, whether they test cards themselves or something before they release them. But yeah, there's certainly, like, I think more than anything they're just trying to make every card as relevant as possible. And sometimes they fail miserably and they're useless in this modern like setting, or they're ridiculously OP'd, or they just got a effect that turns out to be really effective when you combine it with a bunch of cards that most people wouldn't think you would.
Like with newer cards, like if they synergize, I guess is a word, like synergize with older cards or older archetypes that would lead them to becoming completely broken. Like it was only last year there was what was that card? It was Phantom Knight's Rusty Barsh, I think, where it worked too well with the Orchest archetype, and a lot of Phantom Knights players were really upset that Phantom Knight Rusty Barsh, which I don't even remember if that's its proper name, but point is that Link monster, which was good for Phantom Knights, eventually got banned, so Phantom Knights lost one of their best cards.
Yeah, like it's also detrimental to other archetypes that kind of depend on it.
Yeah,
like I run Dino cards, and Pankratops is like really the only good Dino wrestler, and therefore probably the only one that like might one day become susceptible to the ban list.
Yeah, but I don't think it's necessarily overpowered with Pankratops. But yeah, that's kind of a thing. Like if you want to use a deck for fun, but you have this one card which another deck. Let's use Salmon Grace as an example. With like I prefer to use generic Cybers, but I can't use free Lady Debugs because Salmon Grates were like it was just too good with Salmon Greats, and Lady Debug got limited, so now generic Cybers cards are kind of eh.
Yeah.
Like Lady Debug was easily one of the best cards.
One of the best searches.
Yeah, so like bring out backup secretary, then use Lady Debug, Link Summon, and then use backup secretary for a Link 2 monster, and so that's what I meant with this dot point of Yu-Gi-Oh, that some cards are just too good with newer cards, and yeah, that's something actually someone suggested to me on YouTube, that a conditional ban list, like some cards are banned for certain decks, but like Phantom Knights should still use their Link monster as long as that monster isn't used in the Orchest deck.
Yeah, that would be maybe a little bit more inclusive to cards, that instead of just outright banning them and therefore making them useless in any play, serious play.
I think that would help out the game a lot, but that might be another confusion going on with like you have the official ban list and now the conditional ban list, so we got two different ban lists to work off of.
Yeah, it would be too much if they ran both of them, or just one of them, but like they didn't make it clear which one they would go with.
And yeah, I guess that kind of moves on to like the other dot point for like the card game itself, and that is the sets and the cards themselves, like how they like, do they test out cards, like do they work well with this deck, do they does this new machine monster work well with other machine decks but makes those machine decks overpowered or something. Like that is an interesting point that you brought up, if Konami does test like newer cards or newer archetypes, if they work well with older archetypes as well. We don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but with this last dot point of the sets in general, just how much Yu-Gi-Oh stuff they release, like can't imagine the artists working around the clock creating new art designs. So that means the monster designs themselves and the background art. And we talked about how Arc 5 had some of the worst artwork in Yu-Gi-Oh. That's part of the reason I skipped over the Arc 5 generation, because just didn't like the art design of the cards then. Like this generation, to be fair, Yu-Gi-Oh Reigns has a lot of great cards in terms of art alone. But I don't know if you can ever tell whether Yu-Gi-Oh artwork is designed, whether it's rushed, I mean. If they rush the artwork of some cards, or...
Honestly, I think with Arc 5 they were just being experimental, and people probably didn't like that it was following a Magic the Gathering kind of artwork, especially some of the boss monsters and stuff.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. This was actually in the Zexal era, the Prophecy Destroyer.
Yeah.
That thing doesn't look like a Yu-Gi-Oh card at all.
Yeah, and the differences between the anime cards and the cards that, like, especially archetypes and stuff that weren't being used in the anime, they just completely contrasted artwork, and it just ruins the visual appeal, I feel, of the game. Like if they're either too cartoon animated looking, or they're too I don't know,
overly designed.
Yeah, overly designed, exactly. So there's like a middle ground, I feel. And with the amount of cards, I just think that might be impatience more than anything. Like some Yu-Gi-Oh fans just want more and more cards. Like they just want to keep trying new stuff, and that might be part of the reason that Konami is releasing so many cards. Maybe not.
Yeah.
But yeah.
If I could just remember what I had in mind a minute ago, it was yes, if new cards come out and they become really powerful and people try to figure out ways around them, so they may experiment with some of their older cards from like the past year or even past decade to see if they could beat these newer cards released, but then don't get to have you won't have much time to enjoy that experiment until the next set is released, and then you got more broken cards. Trying to figure out ways around them or what synergizes with those decks so well. Like, I think they should slow down on releasing new sets so we have more time to experiment with the cards. And Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just one of many franchises in the world. Like, there's your like maybe some people play Magic the Gathering. There's Game of Thrones, Star Wars, whatever, or just any anime show. Like, it's like they really want people to not leave Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I think that they know that a lot of the fans that they do have are, pretty diehard. As long as the game keeps going, then people, I think they'll maintain a reasonably strong following as long as they keep it alive and interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, the card game itself, I feel like maybe the fact that they are releasing so many cards is the reason why it keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
If they stopped releasing the anime series that they do, then who knows whether that would affect the amount of people who play the card game. But certainly it's the card game itself is very unique, and I think has one of the largest followings in the world, in terms of tournaments.
I have heard tournaments have gotten better with more participants in it, but from where we live, we don't have the mega
no
YCSs or the other competitive tournaments. Like, we still have our local tournaments. I can name 3 that are near my place, but we don't have those massive tournaments that some of the big cities around the world held. What they hold. I think you can win a massive amount of cash if you come first at some of these tournaments. But
absolutely.
But there's none of that where we live. We just go to Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments, and we do get prizes in a way. Like, one tournament hands out store credits that we can use to save on other sets or just buy a single booster pack. Actually, that's something I was wondering not long ago with so many Yu-Gi-Oh sets. Like, the store will just keep piling up on more booster boxes, structure decks after structure decks, and oh no, must be they better have an underground storage room.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. The stores, the poor store managers with so many Yu-Gi-Oh sets, and we're just talking about Yu-Gi-Oh here, not even mentioning Pokemon or Magic. I don't know how those card games release their sets, how often they do, but Yu-Gi-Oh, it's almost every fortnight or every 2 weeks.
A new set of some sort has been released.
That's how it was, I know, early this year, but maybe I'm also partially confusing it with Japanese products that are released as well. Because, yeah, I'm trying not to make it sound confusing. That I do know, as I said earlier this year, there were Yu-Gi-Oh sets released every fortnight. I'm trying to think when there was at least 3 weeks where we didn't get anything, whether it would be a booster pack or a manga promo or something. So yeah, I think that's all we have to say about the card game in general. And in our next video, we're going to be talking about the anime and how the rapid evolution of the card game also affects the anime in general. So that'll be all for now, and until next time, take care, mates.